Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And we have another amazing episode for you guys today, man. It's going to be inspiring. It's going to be good. And again, this is a live stream with some amazing people that are out here doing some amazing things that not only walk the walk, but talk the talk. And you guys already know we are your number one podcast to bring you conversations around death, dying, and grief, mental health, and all the things that come in between there to help provide support and resources for you guys who are out there struggling with some amazing people with some amazing journeys. Now, before I get started, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And of course, this is a live stream. So if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only, all right? So let's get this thing rock and rolling, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Help me welcome Siera. Siera, hi.
Hello, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, love. That smile this morning. This is the best way to start the day. It's like Folgers in your cup. I'm telling you.
Definitely.
Most definitely. Now, before we get started, Siera, introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Well, I am actually from Brooklyn, New York City. I was born in South Carolina, though, so I have the country and city kind of roots. Yes. I am the founder and CEO of Sierra Project Co. We basically inspire women to build the most amazing brands and businesses that they can, and also the lives that they want to lead after trauma and loss. So that is our sole purpose. We also work with companies and train them on trauma and loss in the workplace and in leadership and communication as well.
Nice. I love that. I love that. And thank you for the work that you do. Most importantly, it's just phenomenal, right? Because I think there needs to be a lot more of that, of educating people, especially when people are going through such trying times in their lives, right? They need someone like Siera to come in there and be like, hey, I got you, right?
Right.
So again, mad respect, mad love for doing that. Thank you so much. But you have a story. How did you get into? What was the journey that led you into doing this work?
Well, I have a couple of experiences with loss in my life. The first major loss that I experienced was as a child. My classmates and I, we experienced the death of our favorite teacher. She moved up with us from third grade to fourth grade, and we lost her like unexpectedly, and that was the first time I actually experienced a death. And then a couple years later, I lost my grandmother, and in 2013, I actually lost my mom to a terminal illness, and I was her caregiver for a couple of years prior to her death. So definitely had experienced a couple of situations with loss, but it was crazy because a lot of people did not the people that you think or expect to be there, like in the healthcare industry and social services and things like that, leading up to my mom's death, kind of left.
Oh, froze up. Well, we have some technical difficulties here. It froze up on me. We're just going to give her a couple more seconds before she unfreezes a little bit.
Hello?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me? Oh, yes. There you are.
Okay, yes, it froze.
Things happen.
Yes, and so as I was saying, I don't know if you heard this part, but basically, up until my mom's death, it was really very difficult because my mom, she died at home. I was her primary caregiver, my sisters and I, and we had to learn a lot about like how to deal with someone that was experiencing a terminal illness. And I was young at the time. I was only 22 years old. I had just turned 22 when she passed away. And being the youngest in the family, a lot of the responsibility fell on me to take care of her because my sisters had children. One of my sisters are off to college, and so the responsibility fell on me. And looking back now, I feel like I'm definitely the one that was supposed to like take care of her and things like that. And family, I'm definitely like the peacemaker and the youngest, and just more of the one that is calm. And so like you sometimes don't realize why things happen the way that they do, but then in hindsight you look back and you say, oh well, maybe that was supposed to happen the way it was supposed to. And so taking care of my mother, uh she was she was basically receiving in-home hospice care, and so me and my sister would take care of her at home, but we didn't really know what we were doing. Nobody talked to us about like the process that is involved with grief. They basically just gave us a handout or like a worksheet to look at, you know.
Yeah, that's a second. She froze up again on us. But yeah, this is going to be really, really interesting, guys. I love the fact that we're talking about something that is definitely important, being a caregiver to people that you love, and the importance of
Hello.
Yep, we're back again.
Okay.
Again.
Yes, I don't know what's going on with the internet. I'm just trying to check to make sure.
No, it's totally fine. Look, because these things do happen, right? Like,
yes.
It's been happening a lot more frequently. It's the internet itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And technology is good when it works,
right?
but it has its own set of challenges, right? And it's just like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, we're doing what we're doing, right?
Right.
But it's definitely all good. So you were talking about not having a blueprint of how to navigate this, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Share a little bit more about that for us.
Yes. Like when my mother was diagnosed with a terminal illness, her doctor basically told me like she had 1 year left to live. And being so young, I heard him, but it kind of did not click at the time. And I didn't have anyone to kind of say, like, this is the process of dealing with someone that's going to experience a terminal illness. My mother did have resources. She had like a CNA. She had someone from in-home hospice care, like service. But even with those resources, it was like still very difficult to go through that process, and it was not what anyone would have expected it to be. And so yeah, it was definitely a difficult time, and it was difficult because it was still not enough resources for my mother either. And so another part of the reason I got into this work too is because while all of that was going on with my mom, I also experienced a loss in a different way though. My father had a stroke when I was 10 years old. That permanently disabled him. So I really was growing up super fast and really not able to have my parents there and the way that I would have hope because of illness and because of disability. But I still turned out good. And I went to college and stuff eventually and all of that. I'm currently in my master's program for trauma-informed leadership at Dominican University now. And so I do this work because I want to show people that you can be resilient and you can get through it no matter what and no matter how at the time.
I definitely love that. And you said a couple things that I would like to touch on. And out of curiosity, how did you navigate one being a caregiver to your mother and not understanding what that looked like, right? Because just let me know. But you got thrown into this, right? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you had to learn everything on the fly. You were your sister, right?
Yes.
And still try to maintain your sanity during all of this, right? Because there's a lot of unexpected things that came about, especially when you don't have anybody going, hey, let me help you do this. How does someone like that young like yourself navigate that?
I think just me and my spirit as a person, I am a naturally caring person. So that helped, but I just did what I had to do. I didn't even really think about it that much. Like my mom was sick. I just knew that I had to help. So that's what I did. Sometimes I would have to, it was hard because of course it's like I'm young in this situation, and it was definitely moments where I had to like skip school or miss classes at times to go with my mother to the hospital, or my friends would be like, where were you? I'm like, my mother was in the hospital, so I couldn't come to school, you know? And so it was definitely challenging, but I think what helped was me having mentors. Like I was always like given access to mentors through like teachers and stuff growing up in school. And so I think that played a large role in it, because not in my immediate family, I did not have mentors in my immediate family, but outside of that, I was able to create connections with teachers and even professors when I got a little older that helped navigate and learn situations and stuff like that. And so it was hard. Like I tried my best. I had to, call around the doctor's offices, things like that. Like it really taught me how to do that sort of thing. I had to schedule appointments. I had to advocate on my mother's behalf for like her to receive a hospital bed or even medication and her oxygen tanks and things like that. So it definitely put me in a role where I couldn't be as quiet, because naturally I'm more of the quiet type of person, reserved type of person, but it challenged me to get out there and like stand up for myself and stand up for my mother. So yeah.
Now let's go back a little bit more as well, right? You know, because you said your first experience with grief was losing a teacher, right? And you said you were around 10 years old when that happened?
I was in the third or fourth grade when I lost my teacher. And my mother, and this is another thing that we can definitely get into. My mother kind of shielded me from that loss. Like she didn't allow me to attend my teacher's funeral. I guess she just thought that, I would probably have a problem with that. Probably a problem with seeing her like that. But I just remember me and my classmates all just bawling, crying as soon as we heard the news, because the school shared that information with us in school. So we learned about her death in school. She actually got sick in school and had to be taken to the hospital. So we was hearing in the hallways like something happened to her. And so it was definitely a shock. It was the biggest loss, I would say, up until that point. And then over the years, I just learned to, I think that was the starting point of the journey. Now that I look back at it, I didn't realize that, but it's still a profound like memory that I have related to grief and loss. It was the first one that I had. I lost my grandmother also, my mother's mother, right actually before my mother died. And so that was when me and my family went to South Carolina, and that was the first time in my life where I was getting to know my grandmother and stuff like that. And that was a hard loss as well. She died from a stroke. So imagine when I heard that my father suffered a stroke, I thought that he was going to die, too. That was like afterward. So this is part of the message that I want to convey to others, is that grief is normal. It's a normal process in life. We encounter it a lot. I'll say we encounter it more than life, like more than actually seeing life, because like actually here in New York City, at least, I can go outside and I can see a dead rat in the street like almost every day. And we don't think like, oh, that's a death right there, right? It is. It's a death. We just kind of overlook it because it's kind of like we get used to that. But we encounter death more than we actually encounter life, in my opinion. It's not every day that we're at a hospital seeing someone get born, like a child be born or something like that. But we encounter death primarily like in everyday situations, even if it's not a physical death of a person. It can be it could be a divorce, it could be your friend, your best friend moving away, and you're not able to keep that relationship going for some reason. So it's important that we get comfortable with grief and we get comfortable with loss and death and transitions, as a lot of people also call death is a transition. So yeah.
I understand, and I love the fact that you brought that up, and because the one thing about grief that I've learned, right, and it took me a long time to even understand it because, like yourself, I'm from Virginia. There's so I'm from the South, but I got family in North Carolina. I got family all over the coast over there, from New York all the way down to Florida, right? And all the little squiggly states in between: Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, and so forth and so forth. The one thing that I can say though, when it came down to understanding grief, there was, and I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say this is every family, but most families don't talk about it, right? And we tend to model ourselves behind that behavior. Like we may show up to the funeral, right? And there'd be a lot of singing, a lot of crying, because you always got that one person in church that, and then they fall out and all kinds of stuff. We all got that one person, right? And so, and then after that, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. Like people just go back and what I realized was two things. People became really good at hiding that from us, right? And they cope with it in different ways. And we're just going to celebrate such and such as memory. Saying here's a shot. So we tend to look at that and look, oh, I guess when people die, we're supposed to drink to celebrate their memory, right? But then after that, we're not going to talk about it. So in the open, people were really good at putting on a mask. And I realized as I got older, behind closed doors, people were falling apart. Now, I didn't realize that until it happened to me, right? And it took me a long time, right? It took me to have some very, very profound losses. And now with grief, I realized that the relationship that I have with it, I really love it, right? Because it's such an intimate thing. Reason being, and please, let me know what your thoughts is on this. Reason being, grief is the one thing in the world that connects us as human beings. And you're absolutely right. It is the one thing in this life that we will experience over and over and over and over again. And, when we can put that together, it's like anything that you experience in this world, if you have any sort of attachment to it, you're going to grieve it if it's taken away from you, whether it be a job, car, house, job, your freedom, people, pets, right? You know what I'm saying? All of these different things. And it's universal. That is the one language that people don't understand. Is its own love language. And if you can understand the love language that comes along with it, there's a sense of appreciation that you could have with it to help develop who you are. And this is me, and I could be wrong, but grief can actually light a way to purpose. Right?
Yep. Definitely.
You may become a CEO of a company by using that experience for that purpose, right? You may go out here and decide to say, you know what? I'm gonna write this book, or I'm gonna start this magazine, or I'm gonna go out here and see if I can change the world on doing this, or change somebody's life by doing this. And again, that's just my thoughts on it, right? Grief for me has been this beautiful, beautiful gift of blessing, but it's also born out of pain and trauma and addiction and things like that. And I appreciate every last bit of it, because without it, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
But
What
yeah.
I found too is that like I think what makes grief uncomfortable is change. Most
Mm,
humans don't like change. And when a change is so profound, like losing a person, that's a profound change.
mm,
So if we already have an issue with regular changes, like for example, I might have an issue if my foundation company for my makeup just goes out of business, for example. And
yeah.
I would have to adjust to that, right? But it's like I think that's what it is too, is people are uncomfortable with change. We don't know how to deal with change as much. And so that's what I found too, because having someone here one day and gone the next is a huge change. It's a huge difference, especially when they're so close to you. And so it, once we become more comfortable with change, I think we'll actually get a little bit more comfortable with grief too, and with loss as well.
Yeah. And now I think here's another challenge I want to add to that, right? I think a lot of times when it comes to them to change, majority of people in the world are so used to surviving in the world, right? That when grief shows up, it has to be something to survive. It becomes, I have to not let this whoop me. Trust me, I know I'm speaking from experience when it came down to this. I was like, I can't let this whoop me until it whooped me, right? And it put me in a position to, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Not only did I not want to do grief anymore, I didn't want to do this life anymore because grief had came about and said, hey, I'm going to have to take some things away from you in order to give you this. And just like most people, all I know how to do is survive and fight. I've always survived in this world. I didn't think that there was anything else. I have to survive in this world. I have to keep myself safe. I have to be able to be strong in order to endure these challenges that are coming about. And so it humbled me. And it humbled me through humiliation, through stripping me down to the very bare metal, through the very bone of everything. And even deeper than that, it would take the bone marrow out. It was like, yep, we're going to take this out. I was like, hold on, I need that. That's my bone marrow. Give that
Right.
back to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I need that to be able to walk and fight. And grief was like, no, I'm going to replace that, but you're not going to like it. And what it ended up doing, it showed me that if I released my stronghold on what I thought that I needed, it gave me something different in replace of it. And I think that's where the scary part comes in, right? Because it's an X factor. No one knows. No one really knows what's going to happen with it. And if you're anything like me, or a lot of other people out there, you have to know what comes next. Right? You have to know, okay, I know that this is about to happen. I can brace myself for this impact. And grief is just the opposite. Grief says, yeah, you can brace yourself, but it's not going to help you, right? But if you surrender to me, if you surrender to the process, if you surrender to the hurt and the pain that I have to put you through in order to heal you, I can give you something so much more, right? Now you said something. I can't let you not talk about this. But you started the makeup company. Yeah, you talked about Siera Project, but you didn't talk about the makeup company.
No, I don't have a makeup company. I was using it as an example. So no. Okay.
You didn't tell me the first time. You just can't go past this like you just didn't say that. Okay.
No. Yes.
Okay. Right. So that makes sense. But now, thank you for clarifying that. But what are your thoughts on that right there, right? And then I want to get into, after that, I want to get into some different types of grief and get your thoughts on that as well.
Right. I feel like what you really spoke to is the complexity and the variation when it comes to grief. Like, for example, with my situation with my mother, I actually felt okay in that peace that she passed away. I actually prayed the night before for God to take her if it was her time. I have this relationship with faith. I have this peace because I saw that my mom was in pain and I didn't want her to be in pain anymore. And at that point, I knew that I felt old enough and mature enough to take care of myself. And I felt like my mom held on as long as she did, really for her kids, to make sure that were okay. And I even remember her telling me, like, be strong, because she knows I'm sensitive, as a person. But she did tell me that before she passed away. So I think, she was really thinking of me and my sisters before she passed, and how we were going to be in the world where she was not there. But for me, I was at peace because, I saw the transition. I saw my mom become a softer version of herself in a way that she never had been in the past as she was dying. And so that definitely changed my perspective and made me feel more comfortable with her passing away. One of her cousins came and actually did like a prayer for her also. So that also gave me some comfort too. And so definitely any type of faith that one has can help with that process of letting go in that way. But what was complex for me was my relationship with my mother. Like, I felt like I was being robbed to an extent because I knew that she would not be around to see my milestones in life. Like, I didn't have any children. I didn't finish college at the time that she passed away. And so that was what I was struggling with. Also, there was a lot of things around her death that were like bothersome, related to like family issues with my father, for example. And so there were things that made me feel uncomfortable, but the death itself didn't 100% make me feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And so what I realized is that a lot of people look at grief the way that they do because it's such a complex situation. Like, even a person's death in and of itself can be complex. With my mom, for example, she passed away. It was confusing at first because she was on a CPAP machine, and so the CPAP machine helps her like with her breathing. And so basically we found out that my mom had already passed. The machine was making it seem like she was still breathing. We were checking on my mother and we just knew that she was tired, so we wasn't bothering her. But when she realized she was not responding to us, we called 911 and they came and they turned the machine off and she was not alive anymore. So we was fighting with that idea at first, like, oh my God. And the crazy part is the machine is supposed to alarm when a person is not getting oxygen. Okay. It did not do that. So it's sometimes a lot of things that go on around a person's actual death that people might not be able to come to terms with. But as someone that has a faith and things like that, I feel like things happen the way that they're supposed to. Maybe something else would have happened if the alarm, maybe we would have panicked, for example, if the alarm was beeping, and it would have been more dramatic and not as peaceful for her to pass away. But my mom passed away the way that she wanted to, thank goodness. She wanted to be surrounded by her daughters at home. And so that's what she got for the most part, right? Not two of my sisters were not there, but the other two, me and my other sister, were there. So it's like that's part of it too. And I don't feel like that gets spoken about enough because we focus a lot on how am I supposed to interact with a person that just experienced the loss. Like, what am I supposed to say, to make them feel better? And a lot of the time we don't realize that grief is so different. Like, somebody might not actually have a problem with the person passing away. Like, they might be fine with that. They might be sad about it, but they might also be okay with it too. And so, like in my class currently, I was reading an academic journal article recently that said something along the lines of where people don't recognize the variation associated with people losing people or experiencing loss. Like, everyone's reactions will be different. And we make it seem like everybody, like you said, has to pass out and just cry and all of these things when that's not the case. I actually did not cry immediately after my mother died. I ended up crying later on, but what my role was consoling my sisters. That's what my role was immediately after my mother passed. So that's what you mentioned made me think of.
Yeah, no, I like that because, there's a lot of different forms of grief that comes into there, and I love being able to help people become aware of that, right? And you said something important that a lot of people don't pay attention to. You felt that your roles was to consult other people, and during that loss instead of one. And then I always find this to be a more difficult part, because it has a strange way of coming back on you. We have a tendency of pushing out what we need to do in order to comfort other people, although it's everybody's experiencing that, right? And when it comes down to grief, when it comes down to trauma, mental health, the thing, nobody has all the answers to it, right? And it took me a long time to figure that part out because, again, when my most profound loss was my son, right? And when that happened, I found that there were so many other people that knew my son that came to me for comfort, although it was my own personal loss.
Right.
I was like, y'all supposed to be coming to me, to help comfort me in this time of need, but yet I have to push apart what I'm going through to make sure that you're okay. But at the end of the day, you still get to go home to your child. But I was really kind of confused with that. And then one day I actually made a couple people mad. I made some people mad. Siera, I was like, somebody came to me and I was, this was probably about 4 months after my son passed away. And I just remember I was just not good. I wasn't good at all, right? The funeral was over. I'm sitting in the house by myself. It's lonely now, right? It's quiet. I'm so used to hearing my son running around. I'm just like, oh, man, and I'm just sitting there and someone came over and the energy in the house, you could tell was very sad. Their words to me were, when they came to my house, wow, this is too much for me. And I looked at them, I said, well, your door is right there. Mm-hmm. You don't have to come over.
Right.
You can that door that you just walked in, you can walk right on outside of that door. Because it may be too much for you. But have you ever thought about what it is for me? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, you got a whole family. And here I am. And so I think it's important to set those boundaries with people to say, hey, I can't work on you right now. I have to work on me. And one of the things that you mentioned was the anticipatory grief, like you're understanding, of what that looked like, especially you already anticipating your mother passing away, during that time. But then the trickery, the machine was helping her breathe.
Right.
So it's like, hey, whoa, something's not right here. Lincoln just joined us. Thank you, Lincoln, for joining us, brother. He's been a long-time supporter of the channel. He's my brother from another mother. So we're talking about a lot of things, brother. Be sure to chime in as well. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. And then, here's another one that I just really started to explore: communal grief, shared grief, right? And you got to share grief with not only your family members, but your friends as well, right? And I think a lot of times, now I find this funny because I'm like, we're just mimicking each other, right? And what I mean by that, a lot of times when we don't understand what grief is and things like that, we tend to look around to other people to see what they're doing, and then we mimic them so we don't feel out of place or feel like that we're not doing the right thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going, I see that a lot, and sometimes I find it funny. Okay,
yes.
I don't laugh, but I do because I'm looking and going, I don't know if anybody else sees this or not, but them two are doing pretty much the same thing, and this person is watching this individual and just pretty much going. So I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but it's hilarious, right? You know, did you ever find yourself doing that, mimicking other people? Come on now, you got to be honest with this.
I mean, I feel like with, for example, my sisters, like I think some of like, especially one of them, I feel like she has felt like we see it the same way. But what I realize is that all of us see it a different way, and all of us had a different relationship with my mother. So I guess when you talk about mimicking, maybe the hiding part, I feel like all of us do that, like try to hide our true feelings about certain things related to my mother. So definitely that, because it's uncomfortable, and especially in the Black community, not every Black household is like this, right? But in the Black community, we don't like to talk about certain stuff, okay? And grief is one of those things. Loss is one of those things, and so it's like, oh well, I think this, but deep down inside, I don't really agree with that. Like, you know, and so you have to be truthful to yourself, and always, like, you can't expect even your family members to grieve the same way as you, because they're not going to. Like, and you know, sometimes when you're caught up in the moment, you don't see certain things, but then when you step outside of that, or some time has passed, you actually see it a little bit differently. So that's something that we realize as well too.
Yeah. And see, Lincoln agreed with me, right? You nailed it right there. Because again, in the communities and things like that, you know, when you're not aware or when you're not used to certain things, we tend to shy away from being honest. You know what I'm saying? Not only with the people that we're around, but with ourselves. And the reason being, and this is the beautiful thing about grief that I always loved, and this is why I love talking to people from across the world, because then you realize that grief is relationship, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's based on the relationship that you have with that individual, place, or thing, right? And so, and you're absolutely right. You may come across someone that'd be like, I can't stand that mother. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of glad that mother's gone. But then if there are a handful of people, that person wasn't so bad, man. Like, I still remember this. Well, your memory and their memory is going to be totally different. And you have to be able to respect that. Where I find where the problem lies is that when the conflict, I didn't see this, that, and another, and the way that you may experience it, you try to push on other people to justify how you feel.
Right.
And what I find is that most times people don't know what they feel. You probably heard this before, and you probably said this before. I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. I don't know how I'm feeling right now. And it's okay. People don't understand that. So there's going to be some people. I did a panel discussion one time, and it was so controversial. But I realized that there was a lot of people that felt the same way. And it was called "How Do You Grieve Someone That You Wanted Dead?" You may know someone that feels that same way. That's like, I can't wait till that mother is dead. Right? I'm gonna, and it's like, when you first say it, it sounds crazy, because it's like, are you plotting on murder? Is this what we're doing now? Are we plotting murder? Because if that's what we're doing, then I have a few tips, but I can't participate. You're gonna need some gloves. You're gonna need some bleach. You're gonna need maybe a container. Maybe a plastic bag or two. Duct tape. We're gonna have to get all that stuff. Just say that to people. They're like, "Oh my God, Tony's over here talking." No, I'm not. Making jokes, making jokes, right? Because I find it funny. But you have those thoughts that come up through there, and again, it goes back to what I just said. It's relational to the individual that you're experiencing that loss from.
Right. And that's such a good point. Like, if you ask me and you ask my other sisters, like, what we think about my mother or whatever, everyone will have a different say, like a different perspective. Like, for example, we talk about her. My mother's death anniversary was actually yesterday, right? Um, for the 12th year that she has been gone now, right? And so um we were talking about her and stuff, and everyone is in their individual stage of grief. Like one of my
Right.
sisters, the one that was not around when she passed away because she was in college, I can tell that she feels like she's still like grieving like heavily, because she didn't get a chance to say goodbye, for example. Me, I did have that experience, and so I feel a little bit more confident in my stuff and where I'm at currently with it. But it does sway, like some days I feel really badly, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I got this, I can do this, right? So it changes depending on who you ask. And I laugh sometimes and say, my mother used to get on my nerves so bad. Like she really did used to get on my nerves at times. And like sometimes maybe that might sound bad to one of my sisters, for example, but it's the truth. Like I think that everybody is different. What I realized too, you meet people at different points in their life in a certain way. Like, so if you've known somebody for a long time, for example, and you've seen some bad things that they have done, you might still hold on to that because you were around for that. But if a person met that person when they were in a different place, it's going to look different to them. They might see this person like as an angel. And I always get very, like surprised or not surprised. I just always like kind of listen to the media of when people die, and it's always good stories, right? They always put out the versions of people when they pass away, which I understand. But let's be honest, people are multifaceted people. It's not always that they're so nice and was such a genuine person in life and things like that. So
Right.
we have to be realistic about things as well. But I feel the media in particular portrays death in a romanticized way that's not realistic. So,
Right. Right. And I totally agree. And as you were saying that, and again, I'll never speak on anyone else. I can only use myself as an example, right? So, you know, I've always lived my life in survival mode. And I've done things that, in the name of survival. What I realized is that I listened to the stories of my own journey through other people throughout my life, right? And when people say, and you probably heard this, wow, you've changed a lot. I remember, and this is the part I remember. And when they go there, I just sit back and look like I wonder what I got to get some popcorn because I want to hear about this one now, you know. But then when you meet people, and this is I love that you said this. When you meet people in a certain stage in their life, people only remember that stage in your life. Now, once in a while, you meet someone from that time in life where you wasn't the best of people. And so then it becomes a conflict of interest because people are like, I can't see that. I can't see that. I often tell people, believe what they say, right? You know what I'm saying? Believe, because you got to understand, there's always been different versions of me to not only adapt to the life that I live, but to also survive that life that I've lived. And the things that I've had to do may not be, ideal for the moment in life that I'm at now. So we all have these different versions of ourselves, and we all grieve those as well. As because you're like, man, I missed that. Because you ever heard this term, man? A long time ago, I would punch you in your mouth.
yeah.
Okay. So you know what I'm saying, and what we're referring to is because like you're thinking to yourself, like, if you'd have known me back in the day, you wouldn't be talking to me like this. Mm-hmm. And then you hear this. You better be glad I'm not that person. You better be glad you didn't catch me 20 years ago, right? You know what I'm saying? Because bad things would have happened. Good thing you caught me now, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I've been blessed. I've been humiliated or humble. I've been corrected and redirected in my choices, and I have to make better choices now. So like a long time ago, I wouldn't have cared about rocking an orange jumpsuit. Nowadays, I like my freedom.
Right.
So let's keep that in perspective, right? So but I think that's what a lot of and grief is associated inside of there. But the multitude of things that's associated with it, the mental health challenges, the growth that you have to go through, the letting go of, what I'm saying, of that, and being able to look at things and go, you know what, one day this is going to make one hell of a story.
Right.
The third part about it is, right, or do you have the mental, emotional, and spiritual fortitude now to take those things and mold yourself into the individual that you need to fit the lifestyle that you want, right? Because you already know what this is over there. That's the easy part. But do you have the courage to let that part go? That's a whole new set of grief right there, right? And you may slip up once in a while by looking at someone like, yep, as soon as you turn your head, I'm gonna punch you right in your neck. We all have those moments, but what are your thoughts on that, though?
Yes, I think that I feel like grief changes you, and in my opinion, it should change you for the better. That's just my opinion on it. Because it's so many, like you said, it's such good lessons that you could get out of that experience if you are willing to open yourself up to be that vulnerable. Because some people, they'll internalize in a negative way and things like that, but others, they go out and they will create businesses or foundations or something to help people in the world. And so I think that using grief in a way, or in a sense, to grow and evolve as a person is special. It's something that people don't always recognize, that that they can get out of an experience with grief. And so, yeah, that's what I feel.
Now, let me. I want to ask this question because I'm very curious, and I love that that you're saying, which I just want to get your thoughts on. Do you feel, or what are your thoughts on the growth that grief can give you, and why do you think people tend to fight the process of grief?
I think they tend to fight it because it's painful. Like grief, is painful. It's a painful process. But if a person allows themselves to grow and evolve, like what I got, speaking from my personal experience out of my mother passing, and even what happened to my father, is I need to do my best to live the best life that I can.
Yes.
That's one lesson that I got. I probably would say that's the most profound lesson I got out of it, is looking back and seeing like how they were living, and what led up until the illness and the disability and things like that, and ultimately my mother's death. I now get a chance to look back on that and say, I want to do better. My parents were not always the great people that they evolved into and things like that. In my father's case, I hope that he's evolving still. I actually don't have a relationship with him as much as I used to, because of so many things that happened. But, it should impact people, and it does impact people, but I think that grief should impact in a way that it changes people in a positive way, in a way that they can then look at themselves and say, I might want to work on these things within myself, and I want to go out and contribute to the world in a meaningful way, because why else would we be incurring all of this loss in our lives? Like, it's really simple if you think about it. Like I said, in my mother's case, my mom passed away at 52 years old. I never saw her work like a career. She would stay at home, and I know that wasn't actually the best thing for her. That's not what she wanted to do. And so I took all of those things and I built on them, and I said, I'm going to do better in the future, and I'm going to try my best to do good in the world and be a better person, because look around, some people don't even make it to 52 years old, and so we have to realize that this is the life that we were given. We need to try to do something fulfilling in our lives. And that's a lesson that you get from experiencing grief. And a lot of the time when you meet people that have experienced such a loss, it changes them depending on what the situation may be. Like maybe it was a person that died by suicide, for example, and that tends to be something a lot of people have struggled with, because a lot of people believe that's a sin, right? And so it depends on how a person passes. It depends on how they were. It's so many factors that play into the outcome once you experience the loss.
Right.
But in my case, I was able to look back and say, I want to be better. I want to live a fulfilling life, because my mother literally struggled with her illness for like 10 years straight. So that means I was 10 years old when my mom got sick. And then she passed away at 52. So I actually got 10 years with her being healthy, if you think about it. So I think about it like that, if you do the math.
Right.
That's a really unfortunate situation, right? And that's part of the reason why I look back and say I want to do something good in the world and I want to live a fulfilling life. So try to get the best golden nuggets out of the situation that you can get, per se. And I think, though, that it takes time to process it. Like you have to be in a better space to do something like that too. But some people get caught up in grieving a very long time, and so you have to also get to the point where it's processed. For me, it's more processed now. And it's more processed for me than it might be for like some of my other sisters. So it just depends on the place you are at too in your grieving journey.
I love that because of there's another comment up there. We'll dive into that one in a little bit, but I think Lincoln is right. Sometimes you experience so many losses that you do often wonder, what's the purpose? Unfortunately, this is life, right? You can't change it.
Right.
Now, when we're kids, we never imagine losing the amount of people that we lose. A lot of times, it's the choices that we make, right? And being a former gang member, things like that. There's a lot of loss that come along with that. The older I get, the more people we lose. That's also a part of life, unfortunately, and it's and you have to understand the reality. How you doing, Rachel? Thank you for tuning in. And she just says hi to everyone. So that is a reality. Now, sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, me, I'm very comfortable with talking about death, dying, grief, trauma, mental health, and all those different things. I can accept it on a different level. Most people are very uncomfortable with talking that because no one wants to imagine being in the world without the people that you love, or nor do you want to imagine being your people that you love being in the world without you. Unfortunately, it's not life.
Right.
It's not guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. The next moment, say, look, we can both walk out of here. You know what I'm saying? You can go outside right now and you get hit by a bird flying through the sky, just get you, bam, it'll be that little thing that take you out, right? So anything can happen. I mean, when you look at the way the world is, people are getting ran over by deer and elk nowadays, walking down the street. Then the deer goes running off and there you are crippled. So you never know. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, it may sound funny, but it's the truth.
Yes, and this is why I continue to try to convey the message that grief should not be taboo. It should not feel as awkward as it does. We need to be more comfortable with it because it's the most guaranteed thing in life. You're not guaranteed to become a millionaire, but you're definitely guaranteed to experience loss or die. Right? So
it's universal. It's universal. And so, I know what you're saying, Lincoln. You know what I'm saying? Don't jinx yourself. I get it. I'm not really jinxing myself. This is just the reality of the world that we live in. And I know sometimes people don't want to hear those things and things like that. And it's okay if you don't want to, right? You know what I'm saying? You get to choose what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear, but also get to choose to be like, this is the world that I live in. One thing about those who experience grief, not so, and I love that you said this. So I'm going to go back a little bit where you said this is simple. It's really not complicated, right? Now, here's where we have to have understanding. We've accepted grief on a very intimate level. Mm-hmm. It makes sense to us, right? For those who haven't, it's a foreign love language to them.
Yes.
It's not so simple. It's not so comfortable. See, this is why we having this conversation, because we are comfortable with talking about it. There are some people out there like right now sitting back going, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to, because it's such a negative taboo. You said it. It's such a negative taboo that goes along with that sometimes people think, why are you wishing this upon yourself? No, it's not wishing upon yourself. I'm just comfortable with where I am in this journey of grief and loss and all the things that come along with it. And maybe you don't understand, but when I say that I'm in love with it, I really am in love with it, right? Because I have an understanding of life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if people have not experienced deep, profound loss, they'll never understand the love that comes along with that. They don't understand. It's the yin and the yang. If you love something, if you love anyone, if you love anything, you're going to grieve.
Yes.
It's the give and the take of it. You can't have one without the other. This is the price that you're going to pay, unfortunately. And if you're not ready for that, you might want to figure out how to disassociate yourself with the people that are around you and in the world. And no one wants it. This life is not meant to be done alone. So you're going to have to make a choice. Mm-hmm. But don't make a choice to a point to where it impedes you living your life with the people that you love. It's all about making memories.
Right.
It's all about making the memories, because that's how we live on. We live on through the stories that you tell, right? Because those that have gone before us, they live on through the stories that we tell, right? Through our experiences. And again, not a lot of people are going to understand the simplicity that we have of this thing called grief.
Yes.
Right? Not everybody's going to find that purpose in this thing called grief. Sometimes it's just going to help them become a more humble version of themselves, to appreciate the life, but also to appreciate the people that are around them. Maybe they'll look at that and go, maybe I should tell this person I love them today. Mm-hmm. Maybe have a little bit more compassion for the guy or that woman sitting on the street that may not be doing too well. Go sit with them. Man, I saw something. There's this guy that goes around. There's actually a couple people. One of them loves to go around and feed people. He's on TikTok. He shows a little version where he goes to restaurants. He spends his own money. He buys all his food. He goes out there. He feeds the homeless. If not once a day, he's going out there 2-3 times a day to feed the homeless. It's just something in him. This is what he loves doing. There's another guy. He goes up to homeless people that may not be in the best of people, that's looking for money, and he'll go and drop $300 in there. And these people are like, hey, hold on, did you make a mistake? Right? You know what I'm saying? There's another guy. So I love this, right? Because I can go on and on, but I want to share this one with you. And before I move on to the next, or even get your thoughts on this. So there's another guy. He will go and buy food. Like, he will walk past you and see you go and buy food, and he'll come back with a bag for you and a bag for him, and he'll sit it down next to you and look at you and go ahead, and sit down and have a conversation with you. I find that to be beautiful when people can do things like that. But it's the same thing that I always preach. It's our job to leave this place better than what we found them. But it's also our obligation to leave people better than what we find them. And sometimes it's the act of kindness. And yes, Lincoln, you said it. Kindness can change the world. So my question to my audience today, and to my guests, what can we do in the acts of kindness to change somebody else's life? And if you have something that you want to do, what's keeping you from doing it? People love listening to us speak and share our stories because they know that there's people out here that care about them. But my question would be, what can you do to do your part to help be the change that you want to see?
Right.
So I hand this over to you to get your thoughts on this.
Well, it was a lot said just now that I would like to speak to. In terms of it not feeling simple, the grief process not feeling simple. Yes, it's definitely not simple at a certain point. And like I said, in my case, I've had a lot of time to process it because my mom has been gone for 12 years now, right? And some people, they still feel loss so deeply at even the 12-year mark. So everyone has to process this at their own time and in their own way. So that's really what I want to say about that. Like now I can say simple, right? But at one point I couldn't. I couldn't tell you like how I felt, like you mentioned earlier. But again, I don't want people to feel like they have to prevent themselves from opening up and being vulnerable to others because they experience loss. Like even one of my sisters, she recently had a friend that passed away, and she mentioned something along the lines of like that's why she does not like get close to people. And my sister is in her 40s now, so she's seen a couple of friends pass. Our mother has passed away, and like you said, as you get older, it happens more and more frequently for the most part, right? Because that's life, as you said. And so this is why I feel like embracing grief is better than trying to push it away and shove it away, because we, the more that you grief, you'll have a easier time later on when all of these things are coming up that just are simply not in your control, right? And so that's first and foremost. And in terms of just being kind, that's really important. Like, we really only have each other in the world. Like, and I got that from my mom's passing as well. Like, me and my sisters have been able to improve our relationships since her passing by coming, together a little bit more closely, because we recognize we are who we have, like we are the people that we have in each other's lives, and so we need to act as a community. And as someone that is like a reformed professional, community is the most effective for healing. That it's the most effective. We cannot heal by ourselves. We need to be in community to do that. So think about it that way. When you're showing up and you're kind in the world and you're giving back, you're helping people heal. You're helping people become people that they never thought that they could be. You're giving them hope, and a means to living, because life is not easy. We know that is not the case. And so, but by having each other, we make it a little bit better and a little bit more able to cope with it, And so, yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And very well, very well said. Because it is true. It is very true. Everybody. When it comes down to healing, I don't think people really understand how painful healing is, and I think that's what deters people from following the path that their mind, body, and heart already understands. You know what you need to do, and And a lot of times, people are deterred from taking the steps. A lot of people would like to be victims in the world until they realize that they're not.
Right.
A lot of people need to have an excuse to have an attitude to justify their actions, even when they're not the best. Because they can always have an excuse. Well, I lost this and I lost that. Look, I get it. I do. You know what I'm saying? But it's also, the individuals like ourselves that can see through that and go, I see you're hurt. Mm-hmm. I see you're hurt. I see that I see your struggle. I can see through your addiction. I can see through your depression and your anxiety. And I'm still willing to be in the mud with you. How about that? Right? And that's encouraging that we have a lot more Sieras out here in the world, and so many other people that have been tuning in on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Rumble and Twitter and Twitch, all the good channels out there. I see you guys, and everything. So now, I only have 2 more questions for you, Siera. Okay. Only 2 more, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I want to say, as we begin to wrap up this episode, and it always feels like these conversations go so fast. I look up, I'm like, oh my God. And I wish I want more time to be able to have deeper conversations. But I do have another podcast coming up in like another 24 minutes. So I want to be able to jump off and give them some time to adjust to our conversation on that one as well. So my next question would be, how can people find you?
You can find me. You can go to www.sieraproject.com. I'm on LinkedIn at Siera S. I am on, if you want to connect with me personally, I'm Siera Janaé on all the platforms. I'm not on certain platforms because I'm kind of like moving out of certain platforms, given that certain things are happening in the world. But I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me over on those. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Definitely got to connect on those different platforms because especially your YouTube channel. But definitely like promoting people. Also, everyone, her information is down below. Please go show her that support. Go to that YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, check out her content. That was going to be blown away. She's doing some amazing things out here in the world. Like you guys already know. Everybody up here is out here. They're not just walking the walk, they're talking the talk too. And they're out here and they're making a difference in the world. So, to help us make a difference in the world, right? So my next question to you would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, it would be to help people come back to life, actually, that are not, and when I say that, I mean people that are just not living the life that they want to live. I want to empower people to go out and accomplish their dreams, their goals, and be ambitious. We are here to grow, but we are also here to enjoy our lives and to help other people and do positive things in the world, and to just do what makes us happy. So that would be the superpower I choose.
See, you had me nervous there for a minute because I was like, I seen a horror movie that didn't work out too well when people came back to life now. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, okay, what are we doing with this, right? We don't need no more.
No, not in the literal way, but in a more figurative way.
When you said it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a perfect segue to a zombie joke.
Yes.
We've already seen what happened when people come back. We don't need this problem. Oh, no.
Yes.
Rachel, don't be give me a hard time. She started this, okay? She's like, you gotta re-rate those horror movies every time. Only did it twice. Punch your face. But she did this one though. I blame Siera for that one because when she was like bringing people back to life, I was like, hold on.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure if anybody knows this, but we got The Walking Dead already. Did not nobody see what happened in that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need to happen this anymore. No. Thank you. Thank you for the laugh. Thank you for the education. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your journey, your experience, and as well as your work. You know, and everything else that came in between there. Thank you for such an amazing conversation. You know, I can't wait to do this again as well. And with now, one last thing, if you can leave the audience with some words, what would you leave them with?
If you are grieving, please know and believing deep down in your heart and in your body that it may feel hard, but you can do it. You can find the courage to get up and you can take those memories of the people that you lost and channel it for good. You can remember them after they're gone. I still do things for my mom today. So it's a transition. It doesn't mean that it's forever. It's a transition. And so as long as you remember that, you'll be fine.
I love that. Now, and with that being said, I just let everybody know that that I love them in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in all the time. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Please tune in. I got another podcast in like another 15, 16 minutes and things like that. Tune in for that one as well. Because we are here doing some amazing. Oh, there you go. Thank you for tuning in on LinkedIn. I'm glad you. Thank you for. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We got another one coming up for you just here in a little bit. And so now, with that being said, everybody, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And so yeah, guys. If you don't tune in on the next one, I totally understand it's going to be a long day for most people. And for everyone else who will be tuning in, thank you for allowing me to keep bringing these conversations and these resources and the people to you guys. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. See you guys in the next one. Love you. Thank you for your support. And see you guys in the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Oh, no.